Hello, it's your pal Mike Squires, and this is the Couchers Podcast, episode number 264. And my guest this episode is Mr. Todd Morse. Todd is the bass player, has been the bass player for the Offspring for quite some time. Previously, he was playing guitar with Juliette and the Licks, as well as East Coast hardcore band H2O, which he was in with his brother for years and years. And I also want to say thank you to my pal Carl for hooking us up. Thank you, Carl. You're a star. You're a champ. You're a pal. I had a great time hanging out with Todd. Todd was a great dude. I should probably also go ahead and thank Danny Coker and Stoney Curtis for letting me post up in the studio there in Las Vegas. I recorded a couple episodes, 3 episodes there. One more after this one, and one with Stoney. I had a great time in Las Vegas. Holy moly. Stayed very productive, and that felt good. It felt good to be doing the podcast there. So I sure hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are enjoying the Couch Riffs podcast or the cover songs that we put together, I hope that you'll consider supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/couchriffs. Everything that you see here, the cover songs, making all that stuff happen, that happens because of Patreon. And so I say thank you very much to you if you are already supporting Couch Riffs on Patreon. If you have been considering it for some time and haven't done it yet, let me be the first to invite you to come on in. That is about it. I hope that you enjoy this episode. I hope that you're doing great. I hope you're all right. I want the best for everyone. Don't forget the golden rule. You know the golden rule. I talk about it every intro. Treat people the way you want to be treated. It's just that simple. It's so much easier than being a fucking asshole.
Mick Jagger just got on tour at 80, bro.
Is that right?
They're out. They just started their new tour. He's 80 out on stage, fucking doing this fucking shit. You know?
I've never seen the Stones live.
Really? It's hit or miss. I've seen them a couple times. I've seen them great, and I've seen them sloppy. But right. I love it. I love it either way.
They're playing right next to my podcast studio in Seattle, and I think I'm going to buy a ticket when I get home. It's like the week after I get home.
It's good to see him now because I mean that. Well, yeah. I mean, if I had a dime for every Stones concert, I left with my buddy, and I was like, that's probably the last time we're going to get to see them.
Right.
You know, but you know, much respect to Charlie Watts. Steve Jordan it's tighter. It's tighter, sure. and everybody's sober now. It's a tighter show. It's a better sounding show. It's good to see him now.
So it's crazy what sobriety does for a band.
Yeah.
Todd, welcome to the Couch Riffs podcast.
Hey, what is it called? The Couch List.
Couch Riffs.
Oh, the Couch Riffs.
Couch Riffs.
Okay, where's the couch then?
Well, I started this podcast in my apartment in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And you know, I had a big living room.
Yeah.
And people would come over, and we would actually play along to a backing track.
Oh, cool.
Of one take.
Kind of like Wayne's World a little bit.
Totally like Wayne's World. Yeah, for sure. Like that's what I was actually. That was like my high bar.
Yeah, high bar.
And then
excellent.
Excellent is the right response. And then I moved upstate.
Oh, okay.
And
you didn't have a couch upstate?
Well, it's hard to get people to take the train up there just to play a fucking cover song.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But I moved to this crazy little town, and I was like, wow, man. I bought a house there, and I was like, what is this going to be? And my neighbors were like the people at the center of like the Krishna hardcore scene.
Nice.
Like my name.
So was it the guys from Youth of Today?
No.
Was it them? No.
I feel like a fool right now, but what is the label? It's in Albany.
Yes, I know.
Steve?
Steve. We were Equal Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think H2O did records on
Is that right?
Equal Vision, yes.
They're my neighbors.
Wow.
That was
Nice.
pretty wild.
That's cool.
They were so cool and kind.
Yeah, they're cool people. Yeah. Equal Vision.
Is H2O a straight edge band?
My brother has been straight edge his whole life.
Yeah.
But I have not.
Yeah.
And I wrote a lot of the classic songs, and the guys dabbled in drinking and little weed here and there. But in general, they're not a party band, but my brother's been straight edge the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes traveling pretty good.
But being sober?
Yeah.
I could argue the contrary. I've done both, though. I've done both. I give myself timeouts.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's
straight
important.
edge timeouts. Yeah.
You're originally from New York?
Well, that's where we started in having some success in music, but we lived all over the East Coast. Born in Massachusetts, we lived in Rhode Island, and we lived in Maryland outside of D.C. for a while, so I kind of started getting into the D.C. scene early, with like Scream and Fugazi and all that, before New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you and your brother had the band together? Do you have other brothers?
I do. We have an older brother. His
Also
name's
a
Tracy.
musician?
He can sing, and he has done bands and stuff, but he's more into films and screenwriting and stuff. He's in L.A., writes a lot of horror movie stuff. And
Awesome.
yeah.
So, growing up, when did you start playing? Was that something that was just happening, or who was the lightning rod?
I've dug into this story before, and I can't really figure out why, but I really just always wanted a guitar. I don't know. I just felt like drawn to it. So before my dad passed away, he put one at the foot of my bed as a gift one day, and I never really took it totally seriously, because I was just trying to make friends and get girls and party
Sure.
and all that stuff. And at some point I did learn some bar chords, and right about the same time I was being introduced to punk rock, and the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Circle Jerks and all that. And I could play it. I could play that stuff, and then I really, started to develop a little bit of confidence that maybe I could do music, Which is punk rock is the story for a lot of people's doorway into this stuff,
You were telling me before we started rolling, you had stage presence before you had guitar
skills.
talent.
That's right. I had zero nerves and far more confidence before I had the skills to back it up.
Never nerves.
Never nerves. Never, ever. Never.
Ever to this day?
Well, now that that's the weird thing. Now that I actually know how to play and I know what I'm doing, I get nervous because I feel like I'm expected to do something.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like I care more.
It's also your career.
Yes, my career also, yeah. So I care more, So, yeah, I didn't get nerves until, 25 years into my career.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-show rituals to curb that?
Well, it has been a shot of tequila for a while. Before that was a shot of Jack. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying not to do that. So I don't know, man. It comes and it goes. It's breathing, it's stretching, it's the whole thing. We just we had a month off, the Offspring, and we just did a show, a casino, and we did a radio show in Arizona. And I was calm as a cucumber. I had absolutely no nerves. I mean, this is what I know how to do best now: play bass in the Offspring.
Right.
Like, I was more nervous at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp playing with Bruce Kulick and Chad Smith.
There's so many unknown factors.
There's so many unknown factors. I was playing a Flea song with my fingers on bass, which I'm not even a finger player. So all those unknown factors. But the thing I know the most at this point in my life is playing bass in the Offspring. Yeah. So
That's a pretty good thing to know.
Yeah.
Especially if you are the bass player in Offspring.
Yeah, that's the convenient part about it.
Let's eventually get to how you ended up in that place.
Okay.
But let's backtrack.
Okay.
Do you remember your very first gig?
My very first gig. I'm shocked that no one's ever asked me that question before. Well, what do you mean by a gig?
Could be a house show. Could be a high school assembly. Just the first time you performed.
Yeah, I played a high school assembly. By the time I was ready to start a band, I was living like in rural Maryland, not too far outside of DC and Baltimore, and there wasn't really a place to have shows. So, you know, and I think about this a lot now because I'm trying to launch a solo career as well. Like how I would start a band, 35 years ago in a town where there was nothing going on, is you put on the shows. I mean, and this was the same way for a lot of things. One of my favorite bands of all time, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, they used to have parties in the woods, and that was their shows. So we made our first shows. We did like a VFW hall, and we did like a hall that was on a military base. With my first band, Outcrowd, which was a 3-piece band.
It must have been tough to find a military base in that area.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There was also nothing else going on. So when you're in school and you tell everyone this is going on, you have an audience. And
there weren't
I wish it were that easy.
Even video games.
It was nothing. Much. No phones. There was nothing going on. And I wish it was that easy. The competition for attention nowadays is insane. If you're lucky enough to have a gig, what we have, where there is an audience that shows up, I mean, man, we're doing something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Every day I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Every day I'm grateful.
Yeah.
So it's got to be reflectively pretty incredible when you think back to that.
Yeah. I do think back to that, and I try to get out of my like old guy, get off my lawn mentality of like that can never work anymore, of just putting on your own show and telling people to come, or can it? Maybe that's going on, and I don't know.
People still do entire tours of the country doing house shows.
I need to do that. I think I need to do that.
I think it's great. I know a number of people who do it.
Yeah.
I'll put you in touch with some folks, and you can ask them questions if you want.
Please do, because I'm looking to do my next solo record as organically as possible, as live as possible, as real as possible, because I miss the days, like, for instance, we're going out of sequence of my story, but after Outcrowd, after I got to New York and I got in the H2O band with my brother, we went out. We knew people from touring because my brother was a tech for Sick It All, so he would go out and he met the Rancid guys and all these other people. So we actually got on tours. We got on tours with the Boss Tones. We got on tour with Murphy's Law. We got on these tours before we recorded anything. Right. So when we went to make the first self-titled H2O, we went in and just played our live set in the studio. I've never done that since. And I think that's the greatest thing ever. We played songs that we knew so well. They had tour legs. It was a party in there. We had our friends in there partying, drinking, because it wasn't no job. It wasn't work. There was no pressure to make a record. We just were doing what we do, and that's hard to do anymore.
Do you think that it's easier to do that with your first record because you've got all the time in the world to get the material together? And then the second record, there's a different set of expectations.
I don't think it's impossible to write 10 brand new songs and go out and play them to, even if it's, 20 to 100 people, like 10 shows in a row, and then go in the studio.
I think it's a good plan.
It's a great plan. It's hard. It's hard to manifest.
Sure.
I know that sounds weird, but it is. It's hard.
It didn't used to be, though.
Yeah, no, it didn't. Yeah. People want to hear songs they know. So when I go out and do solo stuff, it's probably 50-50 covers,
Right.
To sneak my songs in,
This is also, just since we're on the subject, and it's also way out of sequence, how did you fall on doing the petty cash thing? And how long, when
Well,
did you
leads
start?
to stuff.
Because I feel like it's been happening for 20 years, but I also have not been drinking for only 9 years.
Yeah,
so.
it's been 16 years since we started. So, putting it back in sequence, Outcrowd, H2O. H2O was taking a break. My brother was going to do this band Hazen Street. So I got to LA. I moved out to California, and I ended up. Someone reached out to him about Juliette Lewis looking to put a band together. So I ended up getting in this band with Juliette Lewis, and at the time it was Patty Schimmel from Hole was the drummer. The range of people changed until finally we got to this core band that ended up making the good records and stuff. And we toured the world. We crammed in 5 years more touring than H2O did in 7 years. I mean, it was insane. I mean, we circled the globe many, many times. And the band got big really fast, and we really had a bond with the guys in the band. And then we got dumped off in LA, and Juliette was going to make a movie. You know, none of us were on retainer or anything like that. So we were like, let's do this cover band. We both love Johnny Cash and Tom Petty. Let's do this cover band to keep the band together and make some money while we're
It
off
was
the
that
road.
band.
It's that band. It's that
Oh,
band.
shit.
Yeah.
I
Petty
didn't
Cash,
realize
and
that.
still is to this day. The guys that did Juliette Licks. Yeah. All except for the original drummer. We have a different drummer now. So it was that band. And then I somehow had a falling out with Juliette. We're all cool now. We're super cool. We're still doing music. But so all I had was petty cash. And we're doing this place called the Key Club in L.A. We would play downstairs and Steel Panther would play upstairs. It was a big night. It was like a Monday night, you know, and that's the night everyone went out. When people still went out for rock and roll on the Sunset Strip, you know. And someone came in that worked for the Offspring, a production manager. They had just got rid of a background guy and heard me singing, and they're like, because they needed someone that could sing the backing vocals, Dexter's backing vocals. And I got asked to audition, and that was that 2009. It's been 15 years next month.
Wow.
Yeah. So I tied that all up together?
No, it's great. So, during your time touring with H2O, what was the peak of, how I say this? What's the peak luxury that you guys toured with?
I mean, a tour bus.
You did have a bus.
That was our first time getting on a tour bus, you know?
Right.
That was a huge luxury. We did so many van tours, drove all around the country in a van. Sometimes we'd end a tour on the West Coast and then drive straight back to the East Coast with no gigs. Like,
I've done that. Yeah. I know that song.
Yeah, you know that song. Yeah, so, you know, and I love, you know, when people are like, oh, you know, the Offspring, you guys are on Dexter's jet and you're in 5-star hotels. I'm like, let me just tell you about what I did to get there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel one bit guilty, because let me tell you, all the times I slept on a van, ate peanut butter sandwiches for an entire summer, you know.
And didn't quit.
And didn't give up. Exactly. Thank you. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm glad we got that little part. Well, but yeah, so getting on a tour bus after that was a huge luxury for us, you know.
Did you guys stay on for the duration? It's tough gigs keeping the bus.
Oh, it's tough gigs keeping the bus.
Step back.
Yeah, there's no bus now. Yeah,
right.
There's no bus now unless it's in Europe, and we're like, I mean, I don't really go to Europe with them anymore, but they sometimes share a bus with another band, you know.
Right.
Yeah, getting on a bus is a tough gig, but we did it, and you know, we did it. We signed to a major label. We did our major label record, and then, you know, 9/11 hit, and things got weird. But yeah, that's a long-winded answer. Oh, tour bus.
Sure. Can you remember the feeling of when it felt like, oh, this could actually be a career for me? And did it feel like it had like long-term legs?
The second that I made any money that I used to pay a bill, I thought that, you know.
Right.
Yeah, even though I was maybe still sleeping on couches or, jumping around from here to there and didn't really have a home. The fact that I had any money, that people were paying me any money to play music, I was like, I've made it. This is it,
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have a lot of needs at that point, I was single, I had no kids. All I needed to do was that, do music. So yeah. But that changes too, because there's such a reward in what we do that's non-monetary. We're easily taken advantage of.
Well, that's there's a running joke with my friends, like your reward is getting to play music.
Yeah.
And it's kind of offensive, but that's why it's it's almost like a Spinal Tap joke to us at this point.
Yeah.
But there's never been a time, no matter at what level I've been performing and touring at, that I haven't felt like I am a week away from maybe the rug gets pulled out.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. It's hard to get rid of that, man. It's hard to get rid of that.
And that's something that's built into playing music.
Yeah. I guess, and is that imposter syndrome? I don't know. Or it's just that I've gone to the super highs and then hit the super lows within, a short period of time before,
Sure.
So I much prefer just, somewhere in the middle, especially now that I got kids,
How many kids do you have?
I have two daughters.
Kids.
Yeah. And my youngest daughter, Ruby, her middle name is Riff. So.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's just perfect for the Couch Riff program.
Very nice.
Ruby Riff. Yes.
I'll send you. How old is she?
She's 5.
She like a trucker hat?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Send me a trucker hat.
I'll send you a trucker hat. For her. How it is even when things are good, you go to work, go out on tour, play gigs. You're sort of in this routine. You play a show. It's super rewarding. Even if you don't have butterflies before a show, you play a show. I'm reminded every time I'm playing why I played in the first place.
Yeah.
And then you go home and everything comes to a screeching halt and life is regular. Do you have any coping mechanisms with that to
Well, like I say,
balance your mental health?
I'm trying to get rid of some of my older coping mechanisms, which is, just continuing the party and drinking and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting way better at it now. My kids are high all unto themselves, but it's this is kind of whatever deep, but like it's about like being able to like yourself, which is taking me a long time, and like I liked myself when I was on stage and people were cheering for me, but the rest of the time I didn't, So now I'm better now. I feel I'm proud of the things that I've done, and I carry that pride off stage now. It's taken a long time to get that.
Do you think that's come purely just from your experience and age, or do you think that there are plenty of people who don't ever sort of reach that place, and it,
I just got sick of it.
Doesn't always end well with folks.
I know, yeah. I think I just got sick of it. I got sick of feeling the imposter syndrome, like I wasn't good enough to be there, and every time I doubted myself, I proved myself wrong, and I was like, this is dumb. I got to stop being so down on myself and so nervous all the time, and I don't know, I just got over it, and I'm just carrying my head higher now,
Do you remember the first time you were on stage and starstruck, and the last time you were on stage and starstruck?
God, there's so many. It happens. I've been so lucky. The first time. I mean, H2O, we played on the Conan O'Brien show once, and right before we went, Will Ferrell was the other guest, and he was doing the goulet, you know.
Yeah.
And right before we went on, we kind of ran into him in the hall, and he was like, "Oh, have a great show, guys," and he's shaking our hands and everything. And I was like, you know, my mind was blown. That was the first time I met, I think, anyone like super famous, you know. And then we had to go out and play on television, which was nerve-wracking enough. And there's been other times, like, you know, I'm not a lead guitar player. I'm more of a rhythm, you know, strumming, singing guy. But I did play some leads in Juliette and the Licks, and we did a Super Bowl party once with the Velvet Revolver, and you know, I do my little dinky leads, and I'm about to do a lead, and I look over, and there's Slash just standing there, and I literally like stopped playing. Like I was like,
you did,
yeah, oh yeah. I was like, what the fuck? And come full circle, I just played with him here in Vegas on bass. I sat in with his band and did like 6 songs, and it was amazing.
He's the nicest guy.
Yeah, he's super amazing. Yeah. So stuff like that. I mean, yeah. I mean,
that you froze up.
But that's because I still had the imposter syndrome. Like I'm no lead guitar player, and Slash is watching me now. I'm not going to show him my little dinky lead.
He's the lead guitar player.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but now I see it as it's not better or worse. I'm me and he's him. Like he can't be me either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's now how I see it now. You know.
That's right.
Yeah. It's hard to get there though.
It's a long road.
Yeah.
It's a super long road.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a point when you have thought about, do you have a fallback? Did you ever come home and have a job and consider that, well, maybe I could, you know, maybe I'll manage this camera store?
I only ever took jobs as a stepping stone to keep it going, you know.
Right.
I never, and the longer I'm doing this, you know, I've been with the Offspring 15 years now, and the band is on the rise again, and we're doing bigger stuff, and every time I think that, you know, I've hit some milestone, some other ones about to come up, and no, man, I'm not. This is it. This is me. I'm riding this out, you know, because it's so tied to who I am, which can be a problem also, you know, because a lot of guys will, you know, ride that one moment till they die poor, you know, like I don't want to do that. I have kids, you know, but I just, yeah, I'm not looking at anything else at this point, you know.
How many solo records do you have?
Thanks for asking, because I always forget to mention that I do have a solo music. I have 2 solo records. I have a full length called Late Bloomer, which is, you know, self-explanatory. I waited a long time, to build the confidence to do a solo record, and that came out in 2019. And then I have an EP out called Time Stopper on Manic Cat Records. That's it for now. But I have 10 songs written. I just am hung up on this fantasy of coming into a room like this with a band and doing it like a band, not, you know.
Yeah.
You know, recording drums somewhere and then tracking at my house. I have a home studio, but it's so uninspiring to do it all by yourself.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah. Yeah. I did all that other stuff by myself, and I'm not doing that again. I need real humans to bounce things off.
I know that's the way young people do it.
Yeah.
But when I do that,
mm-hmm.
I don't feel younger. I feel older.
Yeah.
Because it seems...
It's all tech. It just is too much tech involved. It's like, yeah, and just like
talk to Stoney, man. This is a tracking room also.
Oh, I'm feeling things in here. I'm still trying to find my way. I've only been in Vegas for 2 years, and I'm still finding my way around. But this, I can't hear anything else. So I feel like I could write in here and record drums. You know,
I can't believe what a gift it is to have this as a resource to use for the podcast. So
that's great.
Thanks to those guys again.
This is killer. Definitely, I want to get Sony's information.
Already have 10 songs.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a band or?
I have a band. I have bands.
Yeah.
I have a band on the East Coast that I use because my label's in New York. So last time I played, I just flew out and the band was there and we rehearsed one day and we did a show. And then the band I would use, the band I love the most is Petty Cash and the guys in the Licks.
Sure.
So I would probably use them, but then part of me is like, I live in Vegas now. Like I should probably have some guys that I play with here, you know?
Just so many people here.
I know.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
What about the pressure that you felt when you finally put out a solo record?
It's so weird. Like it didn't do great and I spent a lot of money on it and I wouldn't change a thing.
Sure.
Cause it's like this, like I was having my second kid and I was like, man, I got this 30-year career and I haven't put out a solo record. Like what the fuck? Like it was just like, it was just like a exorcism, you know, like I just had to be done. And it wasn't, it's so funny because I love that Rick Rubin book and, you know, everyone, the biggest quote people love to talk about that Rick Rubin book, he says, the audience comes last. I don't know if you heard that, right? He's talking about like, and instinctually that was my thing. It was like I wasn't thinking about an audience. I was thinking about getting my shit out, you know what I mean? Out of me, you know what I mean? So then with my second one, I was thinking about an audience because my first one didn't find one, you know? So
and in hindsight, how do you feel differently about it?
About
the recording that you made with different considerations?
No, I still think it's good stuff. You can, just for those who are listening, you can find me on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. I still think it's really cool stuff. I just think that like, I think in order for me to connect with a fan base as a solo artist, because people see me as all these other things, you know,
of course.
It's like, and people, you know, I tell people like, yeah, I'm in a giant band, but I'm starting at the bottom as a solo artist, you know, especially in this age, you know what I mean? So it's hard for people to see me that way, but like, you know, I want to go out and play to 50 people in the B markets, you know, like I want to do that, you know, because that's how H2O, like, you know, H2O got big in the city from going to every shithole in New Jersey and every shithole in Pennsylvania, everything outside. So that when we started being able to play at the city, everyone came in, you know, like no one does that in LA. In LA, people play the Troubadour for a bunch of other musicians, you know. It's like they're not music fans. It's other musicians judging other musicians, you know.
Right.
I had to get out of that, you know.
You know the joke about how many musicians does it take to screw in a light bulb?
No, what's that one?
Well, it's like 5. There's one musician, you know, does the light bulb, and the other 4 talk about how their light bulb, you know, they could do it better.
How he's doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
You know the difference between a musician and a mutual fund.
Tell me.
A mutual fund eventually matures and makes money.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Ouch.
Yeah, ouch. I know.
I
don't know what a mutual fund is.
But me neither. My tombstone will say retired.
yeah, retired. Yeah.
What a trip it must have been to go from H2O to being in a band with someone who is a celebrity.
Yeah.
Outside of music.
That was.
Because it's a different like level of fandom, the people that will show up for those things.
But also like, you know, coming from hardcore, I was so burnt on preaching to the converted, you know.
Right.
Like I'm super huge into being challenged by mainstream people in a different audience. You know, one of my favorite things I did in H2O was we went on tour with the Boss Tones. We don't ever played hardcore shows. We went on tour with the Boss Tones and we're playing these outdoor venues in Florida with college kids. We're like scaing it up. And we had to win them over. I just saw Dickie Barrett and I was telling him about this. And so with Juliette, it was like, we first started going out and we were playing these smaller shows and it was all movie fans. They weren't there for music. But we watched it grow from that. They were getting pushed off to the side by actual music fans. We went to Europe and the UK and got accepted as a real band out there, and we toured with the Foo Fighters and the Killers, and we, it became less about that. That's what opened the door, but we became a real band that people cared about the music, so that was cool.
You
it was
guys
a cool
toured
challenge.
with the Killers.
Well, not necessarily a tour. We did the festival circuit together, so we spent a lot of time with them. And I watched them blossom as an incredible band too.
Oh man,
they're so good. Yeah.
But Ronnie is a buddy. And
I know Ronnie. Yeah, Ronnie
Vanucci. What a dude.
He's a local from here. Yeah.
What a dude.
Dude, he's my favorite part to watch in that band. He's incredible. Yeah.
When I met him, he rode a pedal bike, like a what do you call that? Or pedal, like a bicycle rickshaw, in the mall.
Nice.
Was going to school.
One time we were doing shows with them out somewhere in Europe. He had his dad as his drum tech, which I thought was the coolest thing ever.
His dad loved to be around.
Yeah. So great.
Yeah. So do you have a plan for when you'll do this 10-song recording?
I'm putting one together right now.
You're putting a plan together now.
I'm looking at this room. Well, I mean, I'm got to get super busy. Offspring has a new record coming out this year, and then we're gonna go crazy in 2025. So I'm just gonna find a little window, and again, going with the old school vibe. I'm talking about one day sitting around with a couple of people with guitars going through pre-production, the next day recording the drums and bass, and then the next couple of days finishing. Just that's all I got is a week or 10 days somewhere, because there's something to that too. It's either good or it's not, I don't want to chisel away at a song to try to make it good. You know what I mean?
At a certain point, you have to stop finger fucking a song.
You do. Although I've seen some incredible things happen from that. I have.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's not what I'm interested in for this next one. I want it to have some immediacy,
You guys had I got to do the math here because I'm an old.
You're an old.
It's the
30th anniversary of Smash. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're getting ready to do Smash in its entirety on June 1st at the Honda Center in Anaheim.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You were a part of some of the festivities over at the Punk Rock Museum?
I was part of a lot of them, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the Punk Rock Museum.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was on the morning news.
That's pretty cool.
Which is, really makes your kids perk up.
Sure.
So I just love the whole vibe at the Punk Rock Museum is like I walk in there and I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm in my room, like in the 90s, like with all the flyers. I used to make those flyers,
right.
And the whole vibe
Kinkos.
in there, and the bar in there is so fun, and everyone's super cool. So I went over and did some press. Then we rehearsed our acoustic set there, and we did an acoustic set and Q&A upstairs. And for those that don't know, Offspring has a pretty cool acoustic show. If you ever see an acoustic show, come check it out because it's totally fun. It's more of a storytellers kind of thing. We play a song, we talk some shit. It's fun.
That's awesome.
So we did that, and Noodles did tours all weekend. It was fun. It's always fun hanging out there. I got friends that come to town, and all this stuff going on in Vegas. They're like, "Let's go to that bar at the Punk Rock Museum." That's where they want to hang out.
Right. I've kind of fallen in love with Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And when people hear that, I'm sure some eyes will roll.
Because they think of the one thing. They think of the Strip. Yeah.
Let's just be clear. The Strip is not entirely a bowl of burning shit, but largely.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty gnarly.
It's full of a lot of misbehaved tourists.
Yeah. But there's this whole hug around it that people are finding out about.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite thing about Las Vegas that you've discovered here?
A favorite thing? I love where I'm out in Henderson and Inspirada, and there's not a lot of sky. There's not a lot of light there. The skies are incredible. I'm not used to having the sky on top of me like that.
Sure.
I'm sure you see it in Seattle. I don't know, but
We have a different skyline.
yeah. But I'm just I'm in love with the sky. I'm in love with that wherever I go, I know I'm going to be able to park within, like 5 or 10 minutes and not like an hour, I know that's old man shit, but it's like,
That's a thing. That's a thing.
And, like the Punk Rock Museum is pretty high up there for me.
Reasonable person can still buy a house here too.
Yeah, it's not as good as when we were first looking. It's definitely gone up, and interest rates are crazy. But I mean, my neighborhood is so clean and brand new that's what makes me uncomfortable. That's what's taken me a while to get used to, because I'm a city guy. There's not even a freaking piece of glass on the ground. I'm used to like the glass and nails and vagrants and
you had to order a crate of rats.
Yeah,
into
and
the
just
neighborhood.
random like zombies walking down the street in the middle of the night. There's nothing. It's just clean parks, clean pools. Like for my daughters, it's paradise. They don't want to leave.
Sure.
It took me a while to get used to that, the squeaky cleanness of it. Did I say that correct? Grammatically correct?
I understood you. For whatever that's worth. What's the gnarliest place you ever lived?
Oh, gnarliest?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say it's gnarly because to now for me to go back would be gnarly. But it was cool. I lived in Jersey City before it was, nice. And
Yeah, now it's Brooklyn 2.0.
I mean, we were the only white guys, so we couldn't buy weed because they thought we were cops. That's how bad it was,
Right.
I took that train from Jersey City under the Hudson River to the World Trade Center to bartend in Manhattan almost every night.
Where did you work at?
I worked at a place called Live Bait on 23rd Street and coffee shop in Union Square. And another place called Zigzag, which was right down the street from the Chelsea Hotel, where Johnny Ramone and his wife Linda were my regular customers. And we ended up getting to hang out, which was cool.
How's that as a young punk?
Well, I had long hair at the time, and I wasn't such a shameless self-promoter then, so I think I took a minute to even say I was a musician.
Right.
But we just, I mean, it was, the Ramones were everything to me. I must have not let on how starstruck I was. So we would go on I was dating a girl at the time. We would go on dates with him and Linda. I just saw Linda actually not too long ago in LA. We'd go get food and whatever, and it was all good. I don't know why it wasn't as crazy of a deal as it sounds when I'm saying it now.
Sure. You think he didn't even know you had a band?
Oh, we ended up opening for the Ramones. Yeah,
right.
I ended up tolling him, and he put us on some gigs. Yeah, my band Outcrowd. Yeah, we played the Chance Theater in Poughkeepsie. I remember that was one of them. But because I was friends with Johnny,
the Chance is an institution.
Yeah, so you know the Chance. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, because I was friends with Johnny, Joey didn't speak to me.
Right.
Because it's the whole thing,
Sure.
So, but ended up being friends with Marky and H2O, toured with Marky Ramone and the Intruders. So I did have my Ramones experiences, and to this day, I mean, we still play Blitzkrieg Bop, Offspring.
Rad.
Yeah. Ramones are big for them too. Yeah.
I played with Marky once for a rock and roll camp thing.
Oh yeah?
And I think that's the last time I can remember being, nervous.
Yeah.
It could have.
Was that in LA?
Yeah, right by the Fender place, where in that little. Burbank.
Oh, Burbank. Yeah. Okay.
Right by Fender Instruments.
Oh, okay. I feel like I might have been there.
Is that right?
Was he getting an award?
I don't know. Who else was there? Dave
Lombardo?
No. Guitar player.
Navarro?
Generation before, not L.A. Not that kind of L.A. guy.
Dave.
You know Dave, Big D. This is a terrible fucking story so far. It was a VH1 rock and roll camp thing.
Okay.
So it was like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was nervous as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still out there doing
Nervous enough to fuck up a Ramones song.
Yeah. Well, I was just like, I played with him too at like some award thing that he won, and my whole thing was like, okay, I have to downstroke everything, and like I have to like lower my guitar.
Brutal.
I feel like I had the authenticity had to be there, you know.
It's a brutal exercise.
It is, yeah.
Tell me about the did you go straight from New York to LA?
No, I moved to Northern California first.
Where at?
I was in Walnut Creek.
No shit.
Do you know Walnut Creek?
Do I ever? I was born in Concord.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So as a grade school kid, I rode my bike all around those canal trails.
Oh, okay.
Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek, but that was the 70s Walnut Creek. It wasn't like...
we could just run the It's a Small World song, this whole thing.
It was a different world. I would go over there to the comic book shop. I had a paper route.
Oh, okay. I had a paper route also. Yeah.
Contra Costa Times.
Nice.
But I imagine you spent a lot of time in LA while you were on tour, so it wasn't like some kind of huge culture shock.
No, I always loved LA. We'd always stay at that hotel there at Swingers Diner on Melrose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, Beverly
Inn.
Beverly Laurel.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah. So that's what I knew about LA. And then when I was living in Northern California, I would drive the 6-hour drive to rehearse with Juliette. And so I was like, and then when the band started being real, I just moved down.
Right.
Yeah.
Walnut Creek is a not a obvious place to land in California.
No, just me and Jason Newsted, I think.
Is he live in Walnut Creek?
I think he was living in Walnut Creek.
There's a famous actor that's from there. I remember reading it and I was like, oh, crazy.
Yeah. Well, I met a girl that lived there. It was 9/11 happened, and I didn't want to go back to New York, and I met a girl, and so I was living out there with her, and I started hanging with Fat Mike in San Francisco, and all those dudes. It was fun. San Francisco's not my thing.
Right.
But
it's a great place to step in human shit, though.
Oh my God. Yeah, so is LA now.
Right.
You know.
So is Seattle. God bless.
So if you're looking to step in human shit, we have the top 3 recommendations.
Have we got a place for you? Let's talk about the difference between New York and LA a little bit.
Okay.
We won't dwell on it too much.
Yeah.
But it's decidedly different, the whole vibe of it.
New Yorkers are just out front. You know, there's no fucking hidden agenda. It's
all good, bro.
Yeah, there's no it's all good. No, it's like it's either good or it's not, and they let you know. But it's harder to break through as a musician in New York, and that's because it's especially now. Like, I mean, when's the last time there was a big New York music scene? I mean, it's just
2002.
Yeah, I mean, the Strokes, right? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah, I mean.
There's that wave of
It's impossible to survive as a musician, as an artist anymore. Like, the Lower East Side used to be all about that, and so I was finding that well, I guess I wasn't even looking for this, but I found that when I got to California, doors were opening a lot easier as a musician. People were more like, hey, I know this guy or I know that guy. It's a little bit more guarded in New York, and I like that too.
Sure.
It's like,
was it hard for you to show up in LA with your New York experience and not feel guarded?
I mean, I think I've always been sort of more of an open-minded, just I want to meet everybody, I want to try everything kind of guy. But I'm sure that I had a little chip, I'm sure I had a little chip that I wasn't aware of,
Sure.
I look back and I talk to people, from H2O days, and when Juliette and Licks were blowing up and stuff, and I'm always like, was I a dick? Like was I a dick back then? Because you don't really know, like it's.
Oh, I know. I was always a dick.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I definitely think I was at some point, like not
Sure,
or at least I was aloof, which I hate when people act that way around me, But.
Me too. If you could do anything differently, what would that be? And if you could do anything twice as hard, what would that be?
I would put the work into my musicianship. I would have put it in sooner. I would put the work in because it gives you this freedom to be in flow state on stage,
Right.
And not have to think. I had that with H2O because no one gave a fuck if it was sloppy or not. It was hardcore, and that was part of the charm. It was chaotic and throwing your guitar around and all this other stuff. And then when I started playing with Juliette, I was like, oh wow, like she was bringing in ringers, and I was trying to stay in the band because I was writing with her. I had to take lessons again. I had to like.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had to get my game together because it was all groove and swing and not like fucking da-da-da-da-da.
Who'd you go to for lessons?
Oh God, I'm not gonna remember his name.
You don't have to plug him. It's all right.
I remember his first name, but I don't remember his last name. So I think, the feeling I have when I go on stage with Offspring now is this great feeling of flow state where I can keep my head up and not have to look down at my instrument. I can feel the crowd. You can play Self-Esteem 1,000 times and people are like, well, aren't you sick of playing that song? And like, no, because now it plays itself and I just get to fucking enjoy the crowd. You know what I mean? It fucking plays itself. If I had known that earlier in my career, I would have put more time into rehearsing.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any solo shows or petty cash shows booked that you want to?
Well, I chose this podcast wisely because I have absolutely nothing to plug. But,
awesome. That's all right. You're planning.
Yeah.
A recording.
I'm planning a recording, and you could still go and check out my record Late Bloomer and my record Time Stopper on all the streaming thingamajigs, and I'd really appreciate that. And I am planning on making more stuff, and again, it's still for the same reason, which is I write songs. I don't have an outlet for them right now. Although I did write a few songs with Juliette not that long ago that she's working on that will be new Juliette and the Lig songs. So I'm going to do it just because I have to do it, and because with Offspring, Dexter takes care of writing all the amazing songs, and I'm totally cool with getting to play those badass bass lines.
What a treat to tour at that level also.
It's also a treat to become a bass player in a band with such iconic bass lines, and like I feel like I'm having all the fun. Like
right.
Those bass lines are all the fun.
Don't you think that the bass player in a lot of punk bands sort of takes that role, like the melodic and lead
all the fun stuff,
musical role?
Oh yeah, Matt Freeman and Paul Simonon, my idol, like the Clash bass lines are everything,
Yeah, man.
But still, people don't.
They don't get their due.
They don't get their due for it. No.
They know they know they're having the best time.
Yeah, they know that's right. I know I'm having the best time. I don't need to be the. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, I'm so stoked that you met here today.
Yeah.
I
This was
appreciate
fun.
you.
I feel like I went to therapy. I feel better than when I got here.
I'll invoice you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Let me know if you need a bass player for your session.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you need to move here.
It's a 2-hour flight.
2-hour flight. Oh, that's
shorter
true.
than a drive from
That's
Walnut
true.
Creek.
That's true. And so this doesn't have to make the thing, but the price of a medium home in Seattle versus the price of a medium home here. Seattle's expensive.
It's a little more in Seattle, yeah.
Just a little more.
For the price that you could buy a house here, I would buy a 650 square foot condo.
A condo, yeah.
In Seattle. And I got 2 dogs. I'm not trying to live in a condo.
Yeah.
Maybe when my dogs are not here anymore, I'll think about it. But hopefully by then, like, I don't want to live forever either.
Yeah.
Not to be dark, but
yeah.
I love Seattle, though. It's home for me.
Yeah.
At least right for now.
Cool.
Yeah. And when you pass through Seattle, I hope you will let me know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me.